Welcome to America Advances.
Enemies may disrupt U.S. satellites by hacking ground stations, Pentagon says. China, Russia, and other potential adversaries of the U.S. are increasingly interested in disrupting American space assets through cyber attacks that could cripple military communications, according to a top Department of Defense, DoD, cyber official on Thursday. Mika Aoyang, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Cyber Policy, said that nation-state hackers are considering disruptions to space assets at all segments. She highlighted that ground stations, which transmit data to satellites and space stations, are the easiest targets. The cybersecurity of the space systems, the ways in which information from space flows across networks to enable traffic, is something that we're very worried about, she told an audience at the RSA conference in San Francisco. Aoyang explained that ground segment space assets, such as mission control centers, launch facilities, and other networking equipment used for data relay, are the most vulnerable. This is because their defense often involves basic cybersecurity principles that many organizations do not implement. These principles can include secure-by-design approaches and multi-factor authentication, she noted. We think that this is an area that's only going to grow, and the challenge for cybersecurity that we see is that it's going to require engineers who understand a variety of disciplines. Disruptions to U.S. military satellites could undermine strategic military communications and critical civilian infrastructure. In March, a former Space Force CIO told Politico that adversaries might upload malware to orbiting satellites, shutting down their communications with devices on Earth. An additional challenge is that most of the space environment is managed by commercial operators, which necessitates information sharing between industry and the U.S. military. These discussions often extend to overseas allies, Aoyang added. Space cybersecurity gained significant attention 2 years ago during the early hours of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Kremlin hackers disabled over 40,000 Ka-SAT Viasat modems used by people in Kyiv and thousands of other civilians across Europe. They transmitted a VIPER malware, later dubbed Acid Rain, causing mass communications disruptions at the start of the invasion, as concluded by both the company and the NSA. Space-related issues resurfaced in February amid confirmed reports of Russia developing an anti-satellite nuclear weapon for in-orbit use. A Pentagon official told a congressional panel this month that a satellite detonation could render objects traveling in low Earth orbit, an orbit around the planet that completes in 128 minutes or less, unusable for a year. This capability could pose a threat to all satellites operated by countries and companies around the globe, as well as to the vital communications, scientific, meteorological, agricultural, commercial, and national security services we all depend upon, said John Plum, Assistant Defense Secretary for Space Policy. China is also notably amassing a massive architecture of remote sensing satellites to help target U.S. forces if they move to defend Taiwan in a conflict, according to a Space Force intelligence official earlier this month. The White House considers space to be critical infrastructure, but it officially does not have its own sector designation in a recent update highlighting key areas of the U.S. economy in need of protection against cyber threats. Some experts have pushed to get space listed as critical infrastructure in the rewrite, arguing that space systems like GPS platforms and satellites have become key components in modern cybersecurity. Space was previously assigned to a DHS working group in 2021 involving a mix of government and industry players advising on best practices for space infrastructure security. That could change in the future as national security officials, like the DHS secretary, re-examine the sectors, said Nick Liserson, the Office of the National Cyber Director's Assistant Director for Cyber Policy and Programs. At the moment, it makes more sense to reinvigorate the cross-sector coordination that has existed, but maybe hasn't gotten the attention and focus it needs for space, he told NextGov-FCW after Aoyang's panel.
That's it for today's video, soldiers. I remind you that you can subscribe to stay updated with the latest military news.